told to move to this side by my wife, so this fine? Right. Jai Guruji. Thank you, Guruji, for giving me the opportunity to share my story. Okay. So the last satsang I gave was, I think it was a fairly funny one. We shared stories about passwords and how most people have their passwords set to Guruji 7. It's been close to 2 years since then, and I hope most of you have changed your passwords. That said, the satsang and the stories I want to share today are not that funny, but at the same time, I have 3 messages which I just thought of, and I'm fairly certain that's Guruji giving me these messages to share, and that will be the gist of the story that I'll share today. One is, do not lose faith no matter what. Stay connected, make sure you do everything to stay connected, even if the signs are, hey, Guruji's not listening. That's number 1. Number 2 is, do not over-interpret or read too much into satsangs and stories of other, let's say, people that come here. I'm not getting the right word. The third is, if you have the opportunity, try to do seva as much as you can. If you have the good fortune of becoming a sevadar, by all means, take it up. Now, with that said, I'll get into my story, and if I veer off, at least you know the core messages that I have to share. So, I want to say sometime in Feb this year. This has been a pretty difficult year for me, my family. Sometime in Feb this year, my wife and I were discussing, hey, we've been in this country for 13 years. We've never gone back to India. We have concerns about visas and what might happen if we go, and if we try to come back, will we get stuck in India, et cetera, et cetera. So we never went back to India. We came here in 2009, we never left. I was fortunate enough to travel across the whole of US because I was consulting. So my wife, she saw a dream. She used to read messages about people that would actually get opportunities to move to Canada, right? Their stories would center around, we got a job opportunity in Canada, this person moved to Canada, blah, blah, blah. So she'd tell me, I think Guruji is telling us to move to Canada. And I'd say, I don't know that it's that easy for us to just up and leave and go to another country. So I'm having a conversation with one of my directors, and he tells me, Praj, we have the head of IT and supply chain in Canada retiring. I think you'd be a good fit. Why don't you try for the job? So immediately I think, oh, this is Guruji telling me that I should apply for the job, right? Because I've been told that this is a message. And I'm like, sure, why don't I try? So in Feb, I apply for the job. As I go to apply for the job has been pulled. So then I reach out to my manager, and I'm like, what happened to this job? He's like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it reposted. So the job gets reposted. I apply for it. I interview with the Vice President of Canada, and then ultimately the head of Canada. So I work for a multinational pharma company. We're based everywhere. So the interview goes on. It takes a while. I move on to doing other things. I'm waiting for the feedback. I go through multiple rounds of interviews. I nail all of them. I think I nail all of them. And then I am tasked with doing an analysis for disaster recovery for the whole of US. Okay, so my manager basically said, Praj, we need you to tell us, are we prepared for disaster recovery as an organization? And there's a reason why I'm telling you this. So I'm prepared with my presentation. We're on a Teams call, the camera is on. I have about 6 directors and the vice president sitting there, and I just get to the first slide. And as I start the presentation, my wife walks up to me and she drops some mail, which we just got. And those were our EAD cards. So I'm not able to speak. So I have everyone looking at me, and I'm trying to get through my presentation, and my disaster recovery presentation becomes a disaster. True story, right? So I'm not able to get through the words, and I have to stop, and I tell them, I've just got some immigration news, I need a second. So they cancel the meeting. They say, Praj, take your time, we'll come back to you later. So as I'm waiting to go to Canada, we get our EAD. So I'm going back to my earlier message. Don't over-interpret what you read and what you hear. So now I'm contemplating, do I take this job? And then my wife decides, hey, we need to go to India, so she plans on taking a flight, going to India with the kids for the first time in 13 years. So May 24th, I'm still waiting for my offer. My wife decides that she wants to go for a trip with her friends, reunion in Spain. We have a difference of opinion. I'm like, I have to go for a training. You do it on your own. So I was supposed to drop her, but I decided against it, and I went to the office. But there is a reason why I went to the office, and I figured that out later. Now this is where the story gets it starts getting a little difficult. Bear with me, please. So we're in the training session, and I have a colleague with me, older gentleman, Italian gentleman. He was in his 60s. I have a tendency to go out for a walk at 12 at noon every day as a rule. It's lunchtime, I go for a 4-mile walk, and I come back to the office. I have a tendency of dragging people along with me by telling them we work for a healthcare company, we need to be healthy. So I take this gentleman with me. We start going for a walk. We do about a mile, and he's like, Praj, I'm not as tall as you. I can't take steps as fast as you. You need to slow down. And I'm like, sure, why not? So we walk. We reach the front of the building. And it's at that time I'm thinking, I was supposed to drop Joe, but I'm here taking a walk with this guy. So he stops. He's like, how much did we walk? And I'm like, about a mile or so. I said, okay, let's continue walking. As we continue walking, out of the corner of my eye, I see him reach out his hand. I grab his hand. He falls down. I ask him what's happening. His last words were, I don't know, my head is spinning. He stopped breathing. So at this point, I'm trying to kind of, he's a really good friend of mine. He's worked with me for 5 years. So I'm trying to ask him what happened. Are you okay? Someone runs towards me, and he goes red, and then he goes white. And the 2 people who came running, they're like, lay him flat. Something in my gut tells me I shouldn't be laying him flat because he just went completely lifeless. And I was fairly certain his heart had stopped. So I pull him up, and then he starts groaning. He starts trying to cough through whatever he was going through. For some reason, I had the presence of mind to tell people, call 911. We called 911. It felt like a year. The ambulance came. The whole time, I'm holding him. He's rested on me, and there's a lady who's trying to do CPR on him. And he's not responding. He's just groaning. They asked me to lay him flat. They rip open his shirt. Apparently, he's had multiple bypass surgeries. They shock him 7 times, and somehow they get his heartbeat back. So I'm standing there and trying to process, did I just kill this guy? Or was I here for some other reason? So they take him to the hospital. I have no one that I can talk to. Obviously, my wife has just gone to the airport. She's about to take a flight. I can't call her and tell her what just happened. I have 2 kids at home. I go to the hospital, and they tell us that it's a good thing you didn't lay him flat because he was choking on his own vomit. So the fact that you kept him up straight is what kind of kept him alive, and he didn't completely pass out. They had to shock him 7 times. So he's under observation. I leave office immediately because I do not want to be in a position of having to explain to other people who are walking up to you and saying, hey, can you tell us what happened, so that they can take that story and then go gossip somewhere else. So I call my boss, I tell him, I'm not coming to the office. Don't ask me what happened. I want to make sure that, his name was Vincent Villa, Vinny. I want to make sure that Vinny comes out of this. So that night, it only gets worse. That night, so I tell my kids that, something has happened at the office. Dada's not going to go to the office for the next few days. At 3 in the morning, I wake up to a retching sound. So I'm just at home with my 2 kids, and I listen to a retching sound, and I come out of my room. My son's throwing up on the floor at 3 in the morning because he has had food poisoning. So you're thinking, can this day get worse? Can my life get worse? So I work through that. I work with him. I try to kind of process it. I get through the day. And then that week, I got the offer to join as head of IT and supply chain in Canada. And then I talked to my legal team and I said, hey, do you think that there's any problem? And they straight up slam the door and say, Praj, you shouldn't do this because you'd be abandoning your green card. You should not go, but it's your call. So I have to take the hard decision of telling, well, it's a dream job, that I cannot take this job. So I try to get past that. I'm processing this. I don't have anyone. I have to deal with my kids. My wife's not there. I can't tell my parents because my mom has a tendency to cry for everything. So we're waiting on what's happening with Vinny. Next 3 days go by. The conditions are looking bad. And then we get the call that he didn't make it. I have to talk to his wife. And I meet his wife, and the first thing she tells me is, Praj, thank you so much. If you weren't there that day at that time, we probably wouldn't have been able to say goodbye. So my read from this, I'm in a much better place now, was I didn't go with my wife that day because my role or my job was to keep that gentleman alive so he could say goodbye to his family. At least that's how I choose to see it. Now, the next week, my wife comes back. In a week, she takes the kids and she goes off to India. So now, I'm all alone. I'm trying to process the fact that I've given up on a job. Somewhere along the way, we come to the Guruji's mandir before they leave, and I hear Monish Uncle's Satsang. Oh, he's right here, sorry. Going through a lot here. So his satsang is do seva, like try and do seva, and that stays with me. And I read that as, hey, maybe this is a way for me to kind of process what I'm going through. And I start taking more interest in trying to do what I can at the temple. So from that time on, there are a lot of you who have seen me here pretty much 3 days a week. I immersed myself in seva as much as I could. I would come here all 3 days of the week. I try and do every task that was given to me just because I was trying to get over things. And in that process, what I learned was seva and sevadars, they become your family. They help you to get through things without even knowing what they're doing for you. So you might be going through a lot, but it is important to stay true to your faith, despite what you're going through. And more importantly, understand that you have the choice to spiral out. I had the choice to say, well, I'm having a bad day, man. I need to grab a beer. I need to grab another beer with another friend. And I could have made that my life. What I chose was, I choose Guruji, I choose to come here. So the point I'm trying to make to all of you is, each of you might be going through your journey. You might be going through your sorrows. You might be going through things which you think no one else will understand. Just keep praying. You will get through it. I'm in a much better place now. I wanted to share the story. I was like, my day will come. And Devendra uncle just walked up to me and said, which of you want to give a satsang today? So today was my turn to share the story with you. I know I took a lot of time, but I hopefully shared the gist of what all of you should trust and follow. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Jai Guruji. Thank you all.